today, and I told you, I told you, I knew that they were going to remove Donald Trump from this ballot. That's why we went out to Ride the Nine Shooters Lounge, and we tried to get as many signatures as we could for Donald Trump, and it didn't work. Obviously, they're still going to go through with this, but the Trump campaign, they issued a statement after the Colorado Supreme Court, much like the Illinois Supreme Court. I'm sure they're bought off by Democrats. But the Colorado Supreme Court, they determined that Donald Trump, the former president and frontrunner here for the GOP nomination for president in 2024, that he's disqualified from the state's ballot. That's right, for having committed an insurrection. My God. I've told you multiple times we're not going to have a 2024 election. That's my prediction here on the Morning Buzz, Cities 92.9, 6:07 a.m. This is December 20th. Just remember, Kat said that there wasn't going to be a 2024 election. And we're really not having a like my prediction isn't off. We're really not having one because if you knock people off of the ballot, then it's not a true election. It's definitely not free. It's definitely not fair. I mean, yeah, China probably has elections. Ukraine probably will have an election, but like I said, there's only going to be one name on the ballot. We're only going to have probably Joe Biden on the ballot. He's the only name that's going to. Is that true democracy? Ukraine isn't a democracy. We aren't a democracy. Democracy, the democratic process is dead. Let me just put it that way. We are a constitutional republic, but the way we conduct our elections, it is like a democracy. It's a democratic process. And here's the statement from the Trump team. Unsurprisingly, the all Democrat appointed Colorado Supreme Court. Oh, okay. This puts things into perspective a bit. An all Democrat appointed Colorado Supreme Court ruled against President Trump, supporting a Soros funded left wing group and their scheme to interfere with an election on behalf of crooked Joe Biden by removing the President Donald Trump's name from the ballot. How creepy is that? You only have one name to select from when it says President of the United States. You only have one name to select from. There is no Republican on the ballot because we know that Donald Trump is going to win the primary here, and they're going to remove his name from the ballot. Incredible. Um, the Democrat Party leaders in the state have paranoia. They're paranoid. They're freaking out over the growing dominant lead that President Donald Trump has in these polls. They're freaking out and they've lost faith in Joe Biden. They've lost faith in their ability to control the narrative because of the rise of things like Twitter and alternative media. So they've lost the media and they've lost the narrative. So now they've resorted to doing everything they can to stop American voters from throwing them out of office. They're suppressing the vote. They're suppressing the vote. They're doing everything they can to stop you and me from going out to vote next November in 2024. That's what they're going to try to do. So the Colorado Supreme Court, they issued a completely flawed decision last night. And the Trump team, they said that they're going to swiftly file an appeal to the United States Supreme Court, and it's going to die there, hopefully. But for right now, they're going to request a stay for this deeply, deeply undemocratic decision. They're like, democracy. We have to keep decency on the ballot. We've got to protect our democracy. This is the most undemocratic thing I could possibly think of. Imagine walking into a voting booth, and then only having one person on the ballot. Like, that's straight up out of the CCP. That's what happens in the CCP. Kim Jong-un, right? At North Korea, Xi Jinping, they've all got just one name on the ballot. It's their name. So yeah, they conduct elections, but they're not actually democratic elections. Ukraine, they said that they're not going to do elections anymore. So then here we go. Trump has not even been charged. This is the beauty of it all. Okay. Trump hasn't been charged with insurrection. So I'm going to get into how they say, oh, how they're they're going about this. How do they think they have the ability to do this? This left-wing Soros funded left-wing group. It's an activist group that is rabid. Trump hasn't been charged or convicted of the crime of insurrection, which is a disqualifying crime, kind of. I There's an argument to be had that even insurrection isn't a disqualifying crime where you can run for office. Now, it's in the 14th Amendment. There's arguments against that. So you might even be able to commit the crime or be convicted of a crime of insurrection and still run for office. Now, this amendment was ratified after the Civil War in order to prevent Confederate leaders from being elected to hold office at the federal level. So, this is something that came from the Civil War era. This 14th Amendment, that's when the amendment was ratified. The suit brought by the activist group, it's a nonprofit from DC, from Washington, DC, on the behalf of citizens of Colorado. Okay, so this is an activist nonprofit group, George Soros funded, like I said, and they say that because he committed insurrection, he can't be on the ballot because of this amendment, the 14th Amendment. Now, the suit was brought forward by this group on behalf of the Colorado citizens, demanding Trump not be permitted to run for president in that state. A lower court found in Trump's favor. However, that ruling was appealed by both parties, both the activist group and Donald Trump's campaign, because the ruling stated that Trump would not be removed, but that he had committed insurrection, which just isn't true. The campaign alleged that Donald Trump had not committed an insurrection. They didn't commit an insurrection. Heck, Jack Smith, in his own indictment pertaining to January 6th, doesn't come out and charge him with insurrection. I think they charge him with trying to overturn an election or something like that. I'm going to get into Jack Smith's case because the third paragraph of Jack Smith's indictment here surrounding January 6th just blows holes in this whole, oh, he incited a riot, oh, he caused an insurrection. So one thing that I want to talk about is Mike Pence. So Mike Pence said something very interesting. So following Trump's arraignment on the conspiracy charges, okay? These are conspiracies to overturn an election. I think this is the case. It's so hard to keep up with all these cases. I think this is the case where Donald Trump down in Fulton County, Georgia, this has to do with him conspiring to overturn the election, the 2020 election. Now, following Donald Trump's arraignment in this conspiracy charges case, the 2024 GOP frontrunner, former vice president, fronters, former vice president. So Donald Trump is the frontrunner here, and they're trying to knock him, or they knocked him off of the ballot in Colorado. But his former vice president, Mike Pence, he said something about the 2020 elections and how the results would have turned over to the House of Representatives had he rejected the Electoral College votes. I want to play this for you because it's very interesting. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Gaggle of crackpot lawyers asked me to literally reject votes, which would have resulted in the issue being turned over to the House of Representatives, and literally chaos would have ensued. So, well, Martha, I just people can read the indictment, and frankly, I've said before, I had hoped it had not come to this point. You know, I don't know if the government can meet the standard, the burden of proof beyond reasonable doubt for criminal charges. But the American people deserve to know that President Trump and his advisors didn't just ask me to pause. They asked me to reject votes, return votes, essentially to overturn the election. It wasn't just that they asked for a pause.
So there you have it. Pence, he just accidentally admitted he could have turned that 2020 election over to the House of Representatives, but he didn't because he was worried about the chaos. That means he admits he knew he had the legal ability to do that. He knew that he had the legal ability to do that, and it proves that efforts to prepare for that could not have been an illegal conspiracy. It couldn't have been an illegal conspiracy. He knew he had the ability to turn it over to the House of Representatives, but he didn't do that because he was worried about the chaos, as he just admitted in that clip. We're going to talk more about this here on the Morning Buzz. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're back in just a little bit. Good morning, friends. Thank you so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. Excuse me. I was praying status item here, but yeah, my microphone busted this morning, so it's a little crazy. I hold it up there, but we're back in just a couple of minutes. So, Mike Pence, he actually accidentally admitted that he could have turned that 2020 election over to the House of Representatives, but he didn't because he was worried about the chaos. That means he admits he knew he had the legal ability to do that. You have the legal ability to turn an election over to the House of Representatives to let them go through it with a fine comb, right? And to truly say that, yes, this election is free and fair. You have the ability to contest an election. You have the ability to uh, say, no, I don't trust the election results. I would like a recount. You have the ability to do that. You have the legal ability. And that proves that these efforts to prepare for that could not have been an illegal conspiracy. He admits that you can do that. Right in this clip, Mike Pence, following Donald Trump's arraignment here with the conspiracy charges, conspiracy to overturn an election, which he has not been charged with any kind of insurrection. He hasn't been convicted of insurrection, but yet that is what they're saying in Colorado, in the state of Colorado. He did. He committed some sort of insurrection, and that's why he's off of the ballot because the 14th Amendment, as I told you, the 14th Amendment came from the Civil War era, and it was ratified around the Civil War time to try to prevent Confederate leaders from being elected to hold office at a federal level, which is controversial. And there's arguments against that as well. There's arguments against the 14th Amendment and how it's unconstitutional. But the Colorado Supreme Court, like I said, they issued this completely flawed decision last night, and they are going to appeal the Trump campaign, and they're going to appeal it to the United States Supreme Court. For right now, they want to stay the decision. They want, because it's a deeply undemocratic decision. It's shocking. I shouldn't shock you though if you listen to this program, The Morning Buzz with Kat Peterson, because I've been telling you day one, that we weren't going to have a 2024 election. And I was right. Look at this. This isn't a 2024 election. This is not an election. When you have one person's name on the ballot, that's not an election. That's a dictatorship. And the indictment says, and I'm going to quote it here, after it became public on the afternoon of January 6th that the vice president would not fraudulently alter the election results, a large, angry crowd, including many individuals whom the defendant had deceived into believing the vice president could and might challenge or change the election results, they violently attacked the Capitol and halted the proceedings. Actually, what was going on that day was the proceedings. The Republicans were trying to get the election. It was a process, right? The Republicans, it was Ted Cruz, I believe. The Republicans that day were trying to get them to recount or get them to say, hey, there were some spots here and here and here. We're going to do a recount, which is their ability. They have the legal ability to do that. It's happened before. I believe Al Gore did it. You can contest and you can say, hey, I don't agree with these election results. Let's do a recount. You have the legal ability to do that. So Vice President said, and Mike Pence, he's even said on tape, I just played the tape for you. He said that he wasn't going to do it himself, but what he wasn't going to overturn the election himself. He doesn't have the ability to do that. He would have turned it over to the House of Representatives if he rejected the Electoral College vote. So he had the ability, the legal ability to do that. And Mike Pence even said he knew that he had the legal ability to do that. So these, this proves that this isn't an illegal conspiracy, but rather just a process that's kind of common. Most presidents, some presidents, I should say some presidents, have done this, where they go through the process of trying to get a recount or they contest the election results. Anyway, so the indictment says this, and I'm quoting the indictment here. The defendant had deceived individuals into believing that the vice president could and might change the election results. The vice president himself admitted that he could have turned it over to the House of Representatives, by the way. And then they violently attacked the Capitol and halted the proceedings. That's not even the proceeding that was going on that day. The proceeding was just a bunch of Republicans in the House meeting to say, hey, we don't like what we see here, here, and here, and here. Let's take a look at the election. As violence ensued, the defendant and co-conspirators exploited the disruption by redoubling efforts to levy false claims of election fraud and convince members of Congress to further delay the certification based on those claims. So Pence admits he knew that he had the legal ability to turn the 2020 election over to the House of Representatives. He knew he had the legal ability to do that. Pence is currently, he was running against Donald Trump. He was in the single digits. I don't think he really pulled any higher than like 4, but he's out. And Trump, I mean, he is just running away with these polls. The Jack Smith indictment is nothing more than criminalizing political speech. Okay, Donald Trump has the right to speak, and that's all he did at January 6th. Okay, in the third paragraph of the indictment, Jack Smith himself says President Donald Trump had the right, like every American, to speak publicly about the election and even claim falsely that he won. But apparently he's indicting him anyway on this. And this isn't insurrection. Notice how I didn't say that Jack Smith in this indictment, he's not charging him with any kind of insurrection in this indictment. He's not been charged with insurrection. They're trying to say that he fraudulently tried to overturn the election or conspired. It was really just like a conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election results. That's what's going on in this January 6th case. There is no insurrection. He's not even been charged with insurrection, let alone convicted. So these Colorado idiots have no idea what they're even talking about. They're saying, oh, the 14th Amendment, because he committed insurrection. He didn't commit insurrection. He wasn't convicted of it. He's innocent until proven guilty. There was no court that said he hasn't been charged with insurrection. So he can't be convicted of insurrection if he's not even charged with insurrection. I'm going to quote George Orwell here, and I promise we are going to get into the news of the day. I just really want to explain this knocking off of the ballot. This is huge news today. This has never happened, I don't think, in my lifetime, where a president of the United States, a former president of the United States, by the way, and a front runner, he's leading Joe Biden in every poll, and he got knocked off the ballot in Colorado because this left-wing George Soros-funded nonprofit organization, they're rabid, and they did everything they could to appeal this decision in a lower court. The lower court said, no, we're not going to knock him off the ballot. But George Orwell, I'm going to quote him here. I'd ask you this question. Are you ready for the revolution, the real revolution. Because as Orwell told us, in a time of universal deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. Okay. I'm going to quote George Orwell. We need to tell the truth. He hasn't been convicted or charged with insurrection. So how in the world, how is it possible he got knocked off the ballot for insurrection? It doesn't make sense. You see, folks, in Argentina, that was a huge win for them this year. In Argentina, uh, and the real right won. This was a huge win for the real right, and that's what we saw in Argentina, and it was an absolute victory for freedom. That can happen here. Okay, Milei is his name, the guy who won. He was the president of Argentina now, and people say, "Oh, I'm not sure about Milei. You know, he's with us on this, but he's not with us on that." And I get it. Look, anytime you strike a blow against the left, you got to take that as a victory. So Milei, he's doing all kinds of great things over there. He's gutting these departments. He's getting rid of these what's equivalent to our Department of Education. He's getting rid of the women's affairs. He's getting rid of tourism, just this bureaucratic bloat. And he's getting rid of all of it. We are in wartime. We are in wartime. And Republicans have got to act like that. Do you know what this means? That means we need to have people out there saying, you know what? We need to look at Joe Biden. We need to start stripping Joe Biden off of the ballot. Why has he not been impeached yet? Yeah, there's impeachment inquiries, impeachment inquiry. That's not an impeachment. I want to see articles of impeachment. This guy, we have record of him accepting money from overseas, bribery. That's treasonous. Are you willing to do what needs to be done? Every single state that Republicans control should be knocking Joe Biden off of the ballot. You want to know why? Because it's wartime. Oh, but our principles. Are you willing to do what needs to be done in order to see victory? Ron DeSantis, he runs the entire state of Florida. He's the governor there. Has he considered filing a charge against President Joe Biden? Filing a challenge to the Biden campaign that he won't be allowed on the ballot for treason, for accepting money overseas, for bribery? Why not? Why wouldn't we do that? File it under the 14th Amendment. And they'll say, oh, that's not fair. That's against the rules. Well, Trump didn't break the 14th Amendment. Yet they're filing this challenge. They filed this challenge and they won in this cooked up Colorado Supreme Court. You see, this is what happens when you've got rule followers in charge. No. The cutesy time is over. These people don't have what it takes. We need some leaders to really stand up and to start challenging the Biden campaign and start knocking him off of the ballot. We need rule breakers. We really do, because it's wartime. Okay. I've got so much to get to today. This guy, he actually used a blowtorch to steal what was behind the plexiglass. Yes. A flippin' blowtorch. That's where we're at in American society, where we've got crime running rampant and people are using blowtorches to get deodorant from behind plexiglass. Alec Baldwin, he got confronted by some pro-Hamas protesters, and they actually managed to make Alec Baldwin look good, make him look like he's some sort of good guy. I'm going to get to that here. And John Fetterman, he's swinging right again. I don't know. How did the stroke make him smarter? But John Fetterman, he's swinging right again. He pledges to block Japan from buying this crucial American company. So I'm back in just a little bit. We're going to go through some of these stories. That's next. You can find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll be back. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. We've got so much to get to today. We are going to talk about Eric Adams because this is a weird thing that he had said on live television or on television. Um, we have got to talk about what he said about New York City or New York being um, the greatest city out there. And then he describes it in just a weird just such a weird way, and it just made my eyebrows raise. And I don't know what's wrong with this guy, but um, yeah, wow. We're back. Good. Mm. Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in. We've got so much to get to today. Alec Baldwin, the pro-Hamasdonians, that's what I'm going to be calling them now, Hamasdonians, they've really stepped in it now. They've actually made, and they've managed to make Alec Baldwin look like a sympathetic figure. Talk about the wrong side of history here. Talk about being on the wrong side of history. They're lucky that he didn't shoot them in the face or anything. Alec Baldwin was approached by some pro-Hamas protesters, and he actually looks like the good guy. They managed to make him look like the good guy. John Fetterman, he swings right again. I don't know what happened. The stroke made him smarter, I guess. He pledged to block this Japanese company from buying this crucial American company, and we're going to get to that because steel is very important. And we are, I think, number 4 in steel production. You know, can you guess who's number 1? Drumroll, please. China. So China is number 1 in steel production. It's not even close. If you combine everybody else's steel production, China still beats everybody else when you add it all together. So the United States, India, when you add our steel production together, it doesn't even come close to what China is producing as far as steel. So we're going to be talking a lot about that. But I did want to start with Eric Adams here. He was asked to describe New York City in 2023. And you're not going to be ready for his insane reference here to 9/11. If I asked you to describe New York City in 2023 in one word, the most common answers would probably be crime, illegals, anti Semitism. For me, it's prostitution. Not a lot of people know this, but the prostitution is really, really, really bad in New York City. So I probably would, in one word, describe New York City as prostitution. But the New York City mayor, Eric Adams, he was asked this question, and he was asked, "Hey, can you describe New York City in just one word?" And he says, "Sure, I'll do that." But his response is going to make you scratch your head, I think. Um, Adams didn't understand the assignment here, not to mention, he didn't give one word. He kind of like gave multiple words. And he gave he explained New York City. He kind of gave like an explanation. There was a couple of sentences. Now, I am not one for hyperbole, but this is probably the worst response a politician has ever given to a question ever in the history of the United States, probably in the world. I'm not much for hyperbole, but this is the worst response any politician has given as an answer ever. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
Mr. Mayor, we've come to the end of what was a very eventful 2023, right? So when you look at the totality of the year, if you had to describe it, and it's tough to do, in one word, what would that word be, and tell me why?
New York. This is a place where every day you wake up, you could experience everything from a plane crashing into our trade center to a person who's celebrating a new business that's open. This is a very, very complicated city, and that's why it's the greatest city on the globe.
Mr. Mayor, we've come to the end of what was a very eventful 2023, right? So when you look at the totality of the year, if you had to describe it, and it's tough to do, in one word, what would that word be, and tell me why?
New York. This
Okay, first of all, Eric, that's 2 words. You said New York. He said 1 word, but let's.
is a place where every day you wake up, you could experience everything from a plane crashing into our trade center.
What? What? Oh, that's a terrible response. So he said, this is a place where you could experience everything like a plane crashing into our trade center to a person celebrating a new business that's open. It's a very complicated city. Yeah, I would imagine. Eric Adams said this year that New York City has a brand. I don't know what he means by that, but the brand is not good. Whatever that brand is, like I said, anti-Semitism, illegals, crime, prostitution. New York City is the greatest city on the globe because you never know if you're going to witness the greatest terrorist attack in America on American soil, or I don't know, Lady Gaga's dad opening up a new bistro on the Upper West on the Upper West Side. That's essentially what the mayor of New York City said here. It's kind of like if you were to ask Governor Josh Green to describe Hawaii. Well, you can experience everything from, the Japanese attacking a military base to The Rock and Oprah hosting a pancake breakfast. That's like essentially what I mean. It's like if you asked Josh Green that and that's what he said. Oh, yeah, you can experience everything. Like the Japanese attacking a military base, Pearl Harbor, or you could experience The Rock and Oprah hosting a pancake breakfast. It's kind of like in Washington, D.C. You can experience a staffer literally getting nailed in the butt in one room, and figuratively in a different room, the American people are also getting nailed in the next room. Okay, so in one room, you've got a guy literally getting nailed, and then you've got figuratively the American people getting nailed in the other room, if you know what I mean. But I could go on. Netanyahu, I mean, to describe Israel in one word, it's like, oh, yeah, you can experience. I hear Israelis, they've got amazing wine and they've got an incredible tourism. But it's kind of like asking Netanyahu, like, hey, describe Israel for me. Well, one day you could experience Hamas beheading children. And then the next day you might be able to grab some dates on a tour of Jerusalem, right? Grab some dates. That's a big thing there, I guess, is, dates, which are like this like little rich food item. But they've got good wine and things like. But back to my original question. Describe New York City in one word. I would have described it as a cluster. I would describe it as crime. I would describe New York as prostitution, illegals. I mean, just pick your flavor. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but we're going to be back on the other side. Got so much to talk about. I do want to get to steel because the U.S. steel is so important. And we've actually got John Fetterman. He's taking a swing right again, which I was just shocked about. Today's show gets into a little bit of John Fetterman and how the U.S. Steel has agreed to be sold. U.S. Steel has agreed to be sold to Japan, Japan Steel Company. So that's next. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for joining me. And yes, I'm sure you woke up this morning and you were thinking to yourself, wow, this was big news. The Trump campaign, they issued a statement after the Colorado Supreme Court determined that Donald Trump, the former the former president and the frontrunner of the GOP nomination for president in 2024, he's been disqualified from the state's ballot. Colorado will not have Donald Trump on the ballot as of right now because he committed an insurrection. That's odd, Kat. I didn't read anything in the paper about Donald Trump being charged with insurrection. Yeah. Donald Trump, has he been convicted of insurrection? No. So, how in the world are they tossing him off of the ballot for insurrection? Your guess is good as mine. Unsurprisingly, this all Democrat appointed Colorado Supreme Court, much like the Illinois State Supreme Court. They're all Democrats. Most of them are Democrats. There's a couple of good ones on the Illinois Supreme Court. We go about our appointing of Supreme Court justices a little bit different here in the state of Illinois, but the Colorado Supreme Court is all Democrat appointed, and they ruled against President Donald Trump. They ruled in favor of this Soros-funded left-wing nonprofit organization cooked up in Washington, D.C., and they had a little scheme to interfere with the election on behalf of crooked Joe Biden, and they removed President Donald Trump's name from the ballot, and they're eliminating the rights of these Colorado voters to vote for the candidate of their choice. The Democrat Party is the party of voter suppression. They do not like it when you go out and vote. I saw that very clearly here in the town of Normal. Okay, I saw citizens fight tooth and nail. They were angry. They were trying to get people onto the ballot, more people onto the ballot, as the state statute said they had the ability to do. And I mean, they called up Michael Madigan, Chicago attorneys, and they came down with a very heavy hand, and they stopped people from getting the normal Illinois citizens from getting more representation on that ballot. And it's disturbing to see that in Chicago. I talked about it yesterday. The Chicago City Council, they were suppressing the vote. There was a referendum that was proposed by an alderman, a Democrat alderman, by the way, to take it up to a vote. Hey, the sanctuary city status, can we limit that a little bit? Do we have to give $9,000 each to these migrants who are here illegally? Do we have to do that? Can we limit the spending of public funds on these migrants? And they wanted to be asked that question in March, the primary, March 19th. And it didn't even get out of like consideration. They didn't even consider it. They didn't even talk about it. The Democrat Party is the party of voter suppression. They hate democracy. They accuse you of being anti-democracy. They accuse you of being a fascist. That's what they are. They are gaslighting you. They are projecting. And we've got so much to talk about here, but that's breaking news. Coming up in just a little bit, we are going to be talking about the U.S. steel being bought by a Japanese company. And actually, John Fetterman is speaking out against that. That's next. Cat, can't we just deport liberals? God, I wish we could. RT. Yes, I just want to deport liberals. New York equals shithole. Yeah, you're so right. That's 2 words though. But I'm sure you can just smash that together and make it one. Apparently they do. There is the opinion that due process is not a requirement in this law. Colorado still had a trial. Maybe the issue is all you people should be defending Trump because his attorneys suck. Yeah, no. So there was nothing really that Donald Trump could do in regards to this. There's just nothing he could really do, and the attorneys could do, because this is an all Democrat appointed Supreme Court. Much like here in the state of Illinois, we have a couple of justices, and it sways, or it's very heavy Democrat. A lot of them are bought off by Governor J.B. Pritzker. I'm just going to say that because they had installments of $1 million to their campaign accounts. And they're bought off by the Democrat Party. Okay, so there's really nothing they could have done. It's just the way the Colorado Supreme Court is made up. It's all Democrat appointed. There's no diversity. See, Democrats say they're about diversity. There's no diversity on the Supreme Court. And the lower court screwed up. That was a big part of that, is where we've got this judicial branch just screwing up so much. The lower court said that Donald Trump committed insurrection. Now, you can't say that as the judicial branch if there's no charges brought against Donald Trump for insurrection. Look everywhere. There is no charges. Even Jack Smith, our boy, he has not charged Donald Trump with insurrection. They say that he conspired to overturn the 2020 election. That's different. It's not an insurrection. They're trying to say that he caused some sort of insurrection, or that he himself was an insurrectionist, which doesn't make sense because Donald Trump wasn't a part of January 6th. He spoke in Washington, D.C. that day, but I didn't see Donald Trump with Nancy Pelosi's lectern. You know what I mean? He wasn't even in the Capitol. So to say he's an insurrectionist doesn't make any sense. And they know that. Okay. Jack Smith knows that. That's why they haven't charged him with insurrection. He's not been charged with insurrection. So a judge in this lower court in Colorado, he screwed up. That's why his attorneys appealed, and they said, hey, no, we're going to appeal your decision. Although the judge even said, we're going to keep you on the ballot, because the way I read the 14th Amendment, that doesn't mean that he could be tossed off the ballot, because there's arguments to be had that the 14th Amendment isn't even constitutional. And it really came from the Civil War era. But I got to take a quick break. We're going to be back talking a little bit about Alec Baldwin and his encounter with some pro-Hamas. That's what I'm calling them. Smash the like button if you're watching. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for being a part of the show, commenting on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Dan, he says that there was a 5-day trial. Okay, yes, there was a 5-day trial in Colorado on the issue of insurrection, and he was found guilty. No, 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 no. Dan, buddy, you have got to understand where we're at as far as the Colorado Supreme Court. So the Colorado Supreme Court stacked, it's all Democrat appointed, okay? What was before the Colorado Supreme Court was this left-wing nonprofit organization. They had said, and they were pretty much lying. Well, they were lying, and they said that Donald Trump committed insurrection in their opinion, okay? Donald Trump has not been charged. Nobody charged him with insurrection. You can't have a trial for something without being charged first. Okay, so law enforcement, the executive branch, did not charge Donald Trump with insurrection. He was convicted of insurrection, like you said, with this 5-day trial. Nobody charged him with insurrection. There was a left-wing George Soros funded nonprofit organization based out of DC who came on behalf of the Colorado citizens there and said, hey, we want to get Donald Trump tossed off the ballot because we believe he committed insurrection. But they're not law enforcement. Okay, they don't have the right and they don't have the ability to charge Donald Trump with anything. Law enforcement has the ability to charge him with something or to indict him on insurrection. But Jack Smith, in his own indictment, made it very clear in the third paragraph here, and I'm going to get to this. In the third paragraph of his indictment, Jack Smith says, and I quote, Donald Trump had the right, like every American, to speak publicly about the election and even claim falsely that he had won. Okay, there's no insurrection. Donald Trump wasn't even at January 6th. I didn't see him holding or taking out Nancy Pelosi's lectern, okay, from the Capitol. He's not an insurrectionist. He wasn't charged with it. He hasn't been convicted of it. You can't have a trial for something if he doesn't have charges against him for that thing. So, they can have all the trials they want, but it's a sham because the nonprofit organization that is this left wing, it's a alt left organization that said, hey, we're activists and we want to toss Donald Trump off the ballot. They have no ability to do that and to sit there and claim that you committed a crime. It's like me accusing you of a crime. Let's say arson. Okay. It's like me saying, okay, I think you committed arson. Okay. And then gets before a judge and then there's this trial and everything, and it goes off the word that I said you committed arson, but we totally omit the law enforcement aspect of this, the executive branch. There has to be charges brought against Donald Trump for insurrection in order for him to be tossed off the ballot for insurrection. Okay, so he's tossed off the ballot. I knew that was going to happen. They are going to appeal it, and they're going to get up to the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm sure it will be laughed out out of that court, and I sure hope it is, because this is deeply disturbing. What happened here in Colorado? They are eliminating the rights of Colorado voters to vote for the candidate of their choice. This is clown world. I mean, Kim Jong-un, we've got Xi Jinping over there. They hold elections as well, but there's only one name on the ballot. This is a straight up fascist dictatorship that we are living in. Joe Biden being the only name on the ballot. Do you really want to live in a country where you've got one choice, one option when it comes to your candidates? It's freaky. And what I said is, hey, look, people in Florida, they need to start tossing Joe off the ballot. Okay, this whole rule following thing. Well, we can't have rule followers because they're not following the rules. So what we need to do is we need to start tossing Joe Biden off of the ballot for the 14th Amendment. And now he actually may have committed some sort of treason, because there's proof that he was taking money. He was taking foreign money, and he was being bribed. He was accepting money from overseas. bribery. I mean, let's toss them off the ballot. Why not file it under the 14th Amendment? And they'll say, oh, that's not fair. We've got to follow the rules. They're not following the rules. So we need to be, in every Republican state, need to be challenging the Biden campaign and tossing Joe off the ballot. Okay. I do want to get to this, the U.S. Steel. Okay. So U.S. Steel, this is a big deal. They agreed to be sold to Japan's Nippon Steel. I think it's Nippon. So this is a big Japanese steel company. Okay. Now, other people were bidding to buy U.S. Steel. Now, when you look at the numbers, it doesn't really look like they were bidding very high. Okay. So it doesn't really look like they were bidding. You look at the bid amounts and you can pretty much tell that there wasn't a whole lot of bidding going on. They outbid. So Japan, the steel company, they outbid the others with a $13.9 billion offer. That's two times the next highest bid. So below them, it's like half of $13.9 billion was the next highest bid. Or no, it's just two times less. So two times less. So there wasn't a whole lot of bidding going on. So why are people upset about this? Steel, we all know, as a matter of national security, it's used for everything. Cars, bridges, you name it. I mean, war. We use steel for a whole lot here in America. And Trump understood that. In World War II, fun little fact, the U.S. made more than half of the world's steel. More than half of the world's steel. We were like leading in steel production in World War II. Now, China, today, they lead the world in production and way more than the rest of the world combined. So if you combine the rest of the world, I think we're like fourth. If you combine the rest of the world's steel production, it doesn't even come close to what China produces. So Trump understood the problem here. He understands when you don't have steel, you don't have a country. We run on steel. There's a lot of things that require steel, our buildings, our roads, our everything. And what he did, he tried to change that. He tried to change the fact that we are number 4 in the production in the world when it comes to the production of steel. He put a 25% tariff on Chinese steel, and he tried to protect the industry here. Now, many people might be worried about jobs that come with the steel industry. Now, those are all being shipped out. They're not here. Senator John Fetterman is actually outraged by this. And he said that he's going to try to block this sale. He's going to do everything he can to block the sale. Sorry, John, you're probably not going to do much, but I like the sentiment here. I don't know what happened. That stroke made him sound smarter. So here it is, according to The Hill, Senator John Fetterman vowed on Monday to work to block this. I said 13.9. It's actually $14.9 billion sale of the U.S. Steel Corporation to this Chinese steelmaker, Nippon Steel. Okay, so there was the sale that went on. It's 14.9 billion. I misspoke, not 13.9. Now this is an outrageous move. This is what John Fetterman said. The deal was announced on Monday, prompting the stock prices of U.S. Steel to jump 25%. Fetterman criticized the sale, saying in an X post that the platform formerly known as Twitter. So he said this in an X post that the move was, quote, wrong for workers and wrong for Pennsylvania. Yeah, he kind of gets it. Okay, we're kind of in, I don't think Illinois is part of the Rust Belt, but we were huge in manufacturing. I mean, that is what we are known for, manufacturing. Not so much anymore, because the same thing happens where a Japanese or Chinese company comes in with an offer that's way, way too high, and they outbid everybody else and they sell for like $14.9 billion, these U.S. companies, and our industries go overseas. So Fetterman wrote on X, he says, I'm going to do everything I can to block it. So he actually talked about how he lived across the street from U.S. Steel's Edgar Thompson plant in Braddock. So he lived across the street from a steel plant in Pennsylvania. It's absolutely outrageous that the U.S. Steel has agreed to sell themselves to a foreign company. Steel is always about security, both our national security and our economic security. And I'm committed to doing everything I can to using my platform and position to block the foreign sale. Wow. Fetterman is actually sounding pretty smart here. I don't know how or what happened to John Fetterman, but he's swinging right again. This isn't the first time either. But let's take a listen to John Fetterman here. Here we go.
I'm standing on the roof of my home right here in Braddock, Pennsylvania, right across the street from the Edgar Thompson plant. And I just have to say it's absolutely outrageous that they have sold themselves to a foreign nation and a company. Can't do that. Steel is always about security as well, too. And I am committed to doing anything I can do from using my platform or my position in order to block this. And I'm going to fight for the steel workers and their union way of life here as well, too. And we cannot ever allow them to be screwed over or left behind.
So there you have it. That's John. He was on his roof. Oh man, what if they forget him up there and like they can't get him down, and he's just up there for Christmas, and he's like a Christmas ornament up there. You know how people put Santa Claus up on the roof, and you know, what if he just stays up there for Christmas? But no, John Fetterman. I mean, wow. Steel is a matter of national security. Having steel production is very important here in the United States. It's used for everything, but now China leads the world in steel production. Like I told you, the United States is in fourth place. We are behind India and Japan. I'm with Fetterman on this one. I don't allow the sale of U.S. steel to a foreign country. That's a national security risk. We should have learned our lesson when we outsourced nearly all of our antibiotic production to communist China. Maybe the potential loss of jobs is what is peeving people off. I agree with that. I think that this loss of jobs, I mean, being that I live here, I don't know if we are in the Rust Belt. I've got to see, but we're in the Midwest. Okay, we're close to that Rust Belt, and we were all just powerhouses of industry. But I can see where it might not be about that. Japan bought the steel mill that is in the United States, which at the very least means they have to employ people here in this economy. I would hope. We'll have to see, but there's a lot of cases where, and even here, Goshen, the electric vehicle battery company, and I've even experienced it kind of myself with Rivian. There were a couple of people who were here on work visas who work at Rivian, and they sign 5-year contracts with Rivian. I've met 3 people like that, which, I mean, I don't know if that's a coincidence or what. I know that sounds outrageous, and you're like, Kat, you can't draw the conclusion that they're all hiring foreign nationals, but they're all from Mexico, and they're all here on work visas, and they're working at Rivian. I know 3 people. But like I said, they bought the factory here in this economy. They have to help communities here. Steel production won't move to Japan. In fact, they agreed to keep the headquarters in Pittsburgh. So that's what Japan Nippon says. The Japan Steel Company said that they're going to keep the headquarters in Pittsburgh. I don't know. I don't trust, and that's the big thing, right? I mean, it's not an American company. I don't trust people who aren't American. Quite frankly, they can say, oh yeah, we'll keep the headquarters here 1 year, and then the next year they move it to Mexico. Who knows? They don't have any stake in seeing America succeed. Okay, they're a Japan company. So they will also honor the union contracts and maintain the U.S. name. So this all seems like really good things to do. U.S. Steel has not been thriving for a very long time, and it's time to acknowledge that. I don't know what we can do. I think that Donald Trump had the right idea, putting tariffs, that 25% tariff. We'll have to see. I do have to take a quick break, but I'm glad that we got through that story. I know it's not the sexiest story, but it's important. We're going to be back talking a little bit about Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin actually looks like the good guy here in this situation, where he was confronted by pro-Hamas protesters. They actually managed to make him look like the good guy. I'm shocked that he didn't take a gun and blow their faces off, because it is Alec Baldwin. But we're back in just a little bit. Good morning. Hey, if you're watching, go ahead and smash the like button. We're going to be back in just a little bit. If you're watching, smash that like button. Smash the like button because that really helps us out. And share this out with your friends. And go subscribe to my YouTube channel today. We're back in 5 minutes. Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. Like I said, we are going to be talking about the pro-Hamas and how they stepped in it now. They have stepped in it because they managed to make Alec Baldwin look like a sympathetic figure. Talk about being on the wrong side of history, folks. But they are lucky that he didn't shoot them in the face or anything. Alec Baldwin, he shot this woman in the face and is now walking around free because it's rules for thee, not for me. He's an elitist from Hollywood, and he will never have to answer for his crime of shooting somebody. So we're going to chat a little bit about that. Plus, I do want to get to this guy. He's a hooligan, and he actually used a blowtorch to steal from what was behind plexiglass, which was kind of interesting. That's next on the buzz. Hey, coming up in just about like 5 minutes, we're going to be talking about Alec Baldwin. Yes, Alec Baldwin, the guy who shot this woman and is still out and about and didn't have to really answer for his crime of shooting somebody because, folks, he's an elitist. Okay, he's a Hollywood elitist, and it's rules for thee, not for me. And he's out walking around. He actually was made out to look like a sympathetic figure, actually. So the pro-Hamas they've really stepped in it now. They managed to make Alec Baldwin look like the good guy here. And talk about being on the wrong side of history. I'm shocked that these people did not get shot in the face. When they confronted Alec Baldwin, they asked him, hey, are you going to condemn Israel? And he couldn't answer that question. And we're going to talk about that here coming up in just about 5 minutes. Plus, you won't believe it, a blowtorch. Yes, a blowtorch. You may have noticed that there are parts in America where shoplifting and crime is on the rise. Now, not in real America, but in progressive cities. Cities like Chicago, San Francisco, New York City, possibly even Bloomington. Here, crime is going to probably be on the rise. And the reason why is because voters keep voting for the same pro-crime progressive policies and politicians, and they wonder why there's so much crime in their progressive cities. It's because you keep voting the way you do. But anyway, stores have been forced to really keep product behind plexiglass. So simple products, products like deodorant. And this shoplifter has actually stepped up his game. Okay, so now they're putting everything behind plexiglass. These American shoplifters are going to have to step up their game. For one dude, this meant a blowtorch. Yes, so we're going to get to that story here coming up in just about 5 minutes as well. You're going to want to stick around. But what time do you start cooking Christmas dinner? If you're like most people, you likely start early and you eat early. So a study found that Americans start preparing Christmas dinner at around 9:30 in the morning. That is very early, with dinner starting at around 3:45. Who eats dinner that early? I like having it around 5, 6 o'clock, like normal dinner, right? But it will also take 3 days to eat all of the leftovers from the meal. I do like the leftovers. I'm a terrible gift giver. Are you a terrible gift giver? The same study found that 2 in 5 Americans admit to being terrible gift givers. So 51% say they wait until the last minute to do their shopping. That's me. And how last minute? So 50% of people say they get their gifts on Christmas Eve. 39% of people say they've gotten something on Christmas Day. That's hard to do. Okay. Have you ever tried to go out somewhere on Christmas Day? A lot of places aren't open. So no surprise, the top spots for these last minute gifts are grocery stores, drugstores, and liquor stores. So, yeah, not a lot of people are open on Christmas Day. So your last minute gifts are going to be a Slim Jim, a bottle of Tylenol, and maybe a shot of whiskey, one of those little shooters. That's probably what you could get for somebody if you were shopping on Christmas Day. But yeah, I'm a terrible gift giver for a completely different reason. I do not keep secrets. One thing about me, people are always like, oh, Kat, this is off the record. This is off the record. And I look right at them and I say, don't tell me that. And I don't do off the record because I can't keep secrets. So I'm not a secret person, and I'm very open, very honest, and I don't do secrets. So it's really hard for me to keep something a surprise or keep up like keep up a lie. You know what I mean? To try to lie to somebody and like try to figure out what they want. It's tough. Now, one thing about Santa Claus, he's going to be in studio today making calls. So you guys are going to want to register for your phone call today from Santa. I know the kids are definitely going to want to hear from Saint Nick himself. He's going to be in studio. I did make cookies for him today. So Tax and Accounting Plus, Cities 92.9, we want to share the magic of Christmas to all of the children here in Central Illinois. And we're going to be placing phone calls. Santa is going to be placing phone calls to randomly selected children this Christmas season. All you have to do is go to our website, that's cities929.com, for your chance to have your child receive a phone call with Santa. So register now for your guaranteed call. That's cities929.com. And we're making calls today. We make calls on Mondays from 5 to 6 p.m. So Merry Christmas from Tax and Accounting Plus and Cities 92.9. I do have to take a break, but like I said, Alec Baldwin, that story, how he was confronted by these pro-Hamas protesters. And then also I want to talk about the guy who used a blowtorch to try to steal things from behind the plexiglass at this drugstore. So that's next on The Buzz. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much. Smash that like button and also let me know in the comments section if you can hear me okay. I'm having an issue with the microphones today, so let me know if you can hear me in the comments section. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. We are going to get to Alec Baldwin, how he was confronted by some pro-Hamas and how they made him actually look like the good guy. I'm shocked that he didn't have a gun on him and blow their brains out. Alec Baldwin is kind of known to do that. But yes, he didn't get convicted of or whatever. I don't know. He's still walking out and around free, although he lied. So he said he didn't pull the trigger. Forensics tells us that there is no way he didn't pull that trigger. But yeah, so we're going to talk about Alec Baldwin. Plus, crime is running rampant in American progressive cities, and this guy takes it to a whole nother level. Plus, Eric Adams is out there this morning. This clip has gone viral, and this is just, I don't do hyperbole here on the Morning Buzz. I try not to, but this is the worst response any politician. Now, I've talked to a lot of politicians. This is quite literally the worst response any politician has given as an answer. So we're going to be talking about Eric Adams. Smash that like button and share this out with your friends. Oh boy. The New York City mayor, Eric Adams, he was asked to describe New York City in 2023 in just one word, and his response was New York. Okay. I don't think Adams really understood the assignment here. Not to mention, not to mention these two, that was two words, one, and the explanation that follows his, describing New York in one word, New York. He says New York, which is two words, but the explanation that follows that is odd. And I'm not here to try to be exaggeration cat or hyperbole cat, but this response is quite literally the worst response I've ever heard a politician say. And now I've talked to a lot of politicians. I've listened to a lot of their stupid answers. This is the worst one. This is by far the worst. We're going to get to that here coming up in just a little bit. But first, I do want to start with Alec Baldwin. Now, let me set this up. The pro-Hamasdonians, I'm going to call them the Hamasdonians because they're like a breed of people. But the pro-Hamasdonians are anti-Semitic, just terrible, terrible people. And they actually managed to make Alec Baldwin look like this sympathetic figure here. So talk about being on the wrong side of history. I'm actually shocked that these people came out alive because they confronted Alec Baldwin. And Alec Baldwin kind of has a tendency to shoot and kill people. Yes, you might be asking yourself, Alec Baldwin, wait, he's out and about, but he killed a woman. Yeah, right? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. All I can really come up with is he is an elitist Hollywood actor, and the rules don't apply to him because he's a Hollywood actor. So Monday night, there was a confrontation. Okay. Monday night brought three common occurrences on the streets of New York City together in one piece of context. Okay. So three common occurrences. That's progressive protesting, anti-Semitism, and Alec Baldwin going for a walk. Okay. So there's three common occurrences on the streets of New York City. And they've all come together to give you this masterpiece. So the pro-Hamasdonians, they recognized Alec Baldwin. They were like, hey, that's the guy from that TV show. He plays Glenn Ross or something. So they started to freak out on him, as progressive pro-Hamasdonians do. How dare a celebrity not support the protesters' goal of eliminating Israel? So here is how the exchange kind of went down. And I'm going to be using some colorful language. Shut your fudging mouth. You have no fudging shame. He didn't say anything, by the way, at this point. Alec Baldwin was silent, and these protesters just kind of engaged him and started yelling at him for no reason. He didn't say anything. He was just walking, and then they recognized him. That's when they engaged him. All your fudging money, waste of a fudging career. You are no different than us. Because you're white and rich. So they said he's white and rich. You have to answer the simple question: do you condemn Israel? So they wanted Alec Baldwin to condemn Israel. And here is what Alec Baldwin said. Here we go.
Do you condemn? Ask me a smart question.
So he goes, ask me a smart question, and then I'll answer it. So they kept asking him this question: are you going to condemn Israel? Are you going to condemn Israel? It would have been nice if Baldwin had the stones to say, no, I'm not going to condemn Israel. He didn't condemn Israel. He didn't say, yes, I condemn Israel. But he also didn't say, no, I'm not going to do that. But in his defense, he was probably running out to a bodega. He was probably running out to a bodega, and he didn't want to be bothered by these progressive protesters. And he when I'm going out to the store, I don't really want to engage in conversation with people either, especially not the pro-Hamasdonians. But he could have, if he truly had the stones, if he had the cojones, he would have said, no, I don't condemn Israel. And I would have went even further, and I would have said, Hamas, they're evil. They're evil, and I condemn Iran. I condemn the Palestinians. I condemn the Hamas people or the Hamas terrorists. That's what I would have done. So he attempted, at least. He goes, ask me a smart question. Yeah, I don't know. This was pretty performative. And I mean, like I said, I think that Alec Baldwin looked kind of sympathetic here, which is pretty tough to do, being that he shot a woman and got off like scot-free. I do want to shift gears. Let's talk a little bit about this story. A guy using a blowtorch, yes, to get what's behind this plexiglass. So you know as well as I do that there are parts in America that are just riddled with shoplifting, crime, and when I say America, parts of America, not real America. Okay, progressive cities, they're not truly real. Like they're not real actual people. You and me, we're actual people. Okay, we have jobs, we punch in, we punch out, we have families, we have church, a church community. We're actual people, and our priorities are in line. These progressives in these progressive cities, they keep voting for the same pro-crime progressive policies and progressive politicians, and they keep wondering why there's so much crime uh, in their progressive cities. So they're an odd group of people. They're living on top of each other in these urban areas, and it's sick, if you ask me. But anyway, it's not real America, but it's progressive cities that have all of this crime. Stores have been forced now in these progressive cities to put things behind plexiglass. That hasn't happened here in Bloomington Normal yet. I have yet to see that. We are considered a little smaller than, like, say, a Chicago or a New York City or a San Francisco. But it wouldn't shock me to see something like that happen here in the Twin Cities. We'll have to see. But for one dude at a New York City Walgreens, this is in New York City, he wants to get behind the plexiglass, and he's got to up his game. He's got to up his shoplifting game. So the way he does that is through a blowtorch. Yes, you heard me correctly. A blowtorch. Now, if you're watching on the stream, that's YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble, I'm going to share this video with you. I'm not going to play it because there's no audio or anything like that, but you'll see it on the live stream if you go there. And while you're there, subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's Cat Peterson 929. Yes, he actually has a blowtorch. And he is burning this like plexiglass, and I think he's like trying to get something as simple as deodorant, which is peculiar. Something as simple as deodorant, that's what he's trying to shoplift, and he goes to the he goes there and he grabs a blowtorch. So you have to marvel at how the criminal element knows how little a risk they are about, and they know that nothing is going to happen to them. So I marvel that he like goes in there with a full blown blowtorch, and I'm just I'm just marveling at this, where he thinks that he's not going to have anything happen to him. But that's so true, because people don't stop him. You can see it in the tape. Nobody's stopping him. And, in New York City, crime, I guess, isn't bad enough, and they still have items behind plexiglass, right? There's places in Washington, D.C., where they're not even stocking the shelves. So there's not even the plexiglass anymore. They've got pictures of the items in a picture frame, and they don't even stock the shelves with the plexiglass. So crime hasn't gotten as bad as in Washington, D.C., because in Washington, D.C., what they do, they just put up picture frames of the actual item, and then you have to press a button to get an assistant to bring you that item from the back. So crime is so bad in San Francisco, they actually lock up ice cream and frozen pizzas with chains. Good luck blowtorching your way through a chain. Though if you tried, the employees would probably let you do so, and the cops are always a day and a half late in those places because they're so defunded. You might get a RoboCop or something like that wheeling its way in, but you could probably, if you get tired with the blowtorch and the chain, you could probably go home and then come back the next day and take a break, come back the next morning. This hooligan wanted what was behind the plexiglass. he took time to concoct a plan. He came to the conclusion that, hey, if I walk into a Walgreens with a blowtorch, uh, and he could probably melt through the plexiglass. After all, they don't stop him from stealing. Why would they stop him from destroying private property? He knew that he was going to be able to go in there with a blowtorch and burn through this plexiglass to steal. The worst case scenario is that the fire gets out of control and he accidentally burns the building down. But hey, then the thief can claim that, oh, I'm just doing a mostly peaceful protest, and every elected official in New York City is going to look the other way after he says, oh, this is a mostly peaceful protest. You know, the BLM riots where they set buildings on fire, they were all mostly peaceful, right? All the while, the cops can take out their phones and they can count down how many days they've got left until retirement. Yes. So that is that story. In New York City, guy has blowtorches through the plexiglass to try to steal. From what I understand, it looks like a stick of deodorant. That's extreme. Those are extreme measures to take for a stick of deodorant. But that's how bad it's gotten here in America. This is the Morning Buzz. I'll be back on the other side. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's Cat Peterson 929. Good morning. This is the Morning Up Buzz. Show us your game 2023. You can submit a picture of yourself with your game, so your trophy buck, duck, pheasant, quails. Good luck and happy hunting. Once you get that picture, you want to upload it to cities929.com. We've teamed up with Bloomington Meats and Quinn Skull's Taxidermy for Show Us Your Game 2023. You submit a picture, you get into the running to win a free deer processing from Bloomington Meats and a $100 gift card to Quinn Skull's Taxidermy. So cities929.com, submit a photo of yourself. Okay, we are going to be talking a little bit about Eric Adams. Like I said, I'm not much for hyperbole, but this is the worst response I've ever seen given by a politician. The worst. New York City Mayor Eric Adams, he was asked to describe New York in just one word, and his response was New York. That was his response. So I don't think he really understood the assignment. That's two words, New York. You were asked to describe New York in one word. But anyway, we're going to get to that story here coming up in just a little bit. But Christmas cookies. Now you have your Christmas cookies and your wine too. So according to people in this study, they actually found that cookies and wine actually pair very nicely together. So chocolate chip cookies pair well with Cabernet. So if you're looking for a gift for mom or your wife, do this. Chocolate chip with Cabernet. Sugar cookies with Chardonnay. Interesting. Gingerbread cookies with Zinfandel. Soft molasses cookies with Pinot Noir. Interesting. So what makes the season really bright? For pet owners, it's their furry friend. A study found that 80% of pet owners are just happy being at home with their pet for the holidays. You know what I want so bad? I want a dog. I don't have time for a dog. That's what the unfortunate thing is. I've got 3 cats and I love them very much. Panther, Colt, and Zealy. I love them all very, very much. But I really want a dog, but I know that dogs take so much time and the cats, it would be just a lot of pets in one house. But I've noticed anytime I'm home, the pets are just so happy that I'm there. And yeah, that's what makes the season bright, especially when I get my little sweaters out. I do put sweaters on my cats. I'm that girl. Yes, I put sweaters on my little cats, and they've got the collars, they've got the treats. They're very spoiled. They just kind of look cold, around this time of year. So I buy them a Christmas sweater every year, and that's their Christmas gift. Okay. I do have to take a break in the 8 o'clock hour. Like I said, we're going to talk about Eric Adams, and I will revisit Donald Trump being knocked off the ballot in Colorado because that's very important, folks. You're listening to Cities 92.9. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble, and subscribe to my YouTube channel today. Good morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. Go ahead and smash the like button. Let's get to your very, very busy comments here in the comments section. Two things. You sound fine and your new setup looks very professional. I appreciate that. And then we've got Dan here. So Trump's attorneys suck for letting it happen. Even the dissenters didn't dispute the decision on insurrection. No, this is not a decision. They can't come to that decision. That's what I'm trying to tell you here, Dan, is they can't come to that decision because Donald Trump was never charged with insurrection. The question before these judges, before the Colorado Supreme Court was, should he be knocked off the ballot for insurrection? And the judge said that, yes, he committed, in a lower court, yes, he committed insurrection, but he shouldn't be knocked off of the ballot. That's what the lower court said. They appealed that. Okay. They appealed that. The Trump team and the left-wing activist group that said that he caused an insurrection or whatever, because the Donald Trump campaign said, well, we didn't cause an insurrection. Even though this lower court even said to the Trump campaign, I'm not going to knock you off the ballot because of that. He said, no, I did not commit insurrection. I've never been charged with that. A judge can't charge you with anything. That's the thing. He's never been charged with anything. And you can't do that. You can't have a left-wing activist group charge you with insurrection. The Trump campaign, they issued a statement after the Colorado Supreme Court. I told you about this. This shouldn't shock you because I told you that this was probably going to happen and that we weren't going to have a legitimate 2024 election. And here we go. This is just step number one where they've tossed Donald Trump off the ballot. So at the top of the hour, you heard Vivek Ramaswamy say, look, I'm going to rescind my name from the primary ballot if they do not restore Donald Trump to that ballot, restore his name to the ballot. This is disgusting, what the Colorado Supreme Court did here, and I'm going to explain why. Unsurprisingly, the Colorado Supreme Court is all Democrat, and they ruled against President Donald Trump. So people are saying, oh, it's Trump's attorneys who suck so bad. Not really, okay? So the all Democrat appointed Supreme Court was going to do this. What happened here, there was a lower court, and I'm going to get to this here in just a second, but there was a lower court who the judge said, hey, we're going to keep him on the ballot, but he did commit insurrection. The judge can't say that, okay? They're blurring the line here between executive branch and judicial branch. The guy hasn't been charged with insurrection or convicted of insurrection because he's never been charged with insurrection. You can't charge him in court you can't charge him in court. He has to be charged. Then he goes to court to defend himself against those charges. That's how this typically goes. And we're just throwing it all away. We're just like, whatever, our judicial process, who cares? That's what's going on here. He hasn't even been charged with insurrection, but yet the Illinois or the Colorado Supreme Court ruled against him and said that, hey, we're going to remove Donald Trump's name from the ballot because he committed insurrection, which he hasn't been charged with. So supported by George Soros, this left-wing group, it's a nonprofit group out of Washington, D.C., they cooked up a scheme to try to interfere with the election on behalf of crooked Joe Biden. That's what's going on here. They want to remove Donald Trump's name from the ballot. They want to eliminate the rights of Colorado voters to vote for the candidate of their choice. Democrats are the party of voter suppression. They accuse you of voter suppression because you want things like voter ID and for the voter rolls to be clean. Okay. They accuse you of voter suppression, but really they're the party of voter suppression. That's very clear. Even right here in the town of Normal, they did everything in their power to try to make sure that there was not representation on that ballot, whether that be through a district system like the city of Bloomington has. The citizens of Normal fought for a district citizens or system so that way they could have a representative in their district that they could do or go to, so they didn't have to address an at-large council. The council said you can't do that. then they were like, okay, but there's the state statute, you see, that says, hey, incorporated towns, they have to have these elected positions. The town clerk, the town supervisor, the collector, assessor, have to be elected positions. So let's run people for these positions and get those people on the ballot. They collected the signatures, they got on to the ballot. Then the town of Normal knocked them off. Although state statute said that those positions should be elected if that is in fact an incorporated town, if we are an incorporated town. So the citizens of Normal, they were trumped up in court like this, and the rulings were crap. And yeah, that's really what it is. I mean, that it's all voter suppression. It's all about keeping people off of the ballot. And that's undemocratic. It's undemocratic. They say, democracy, Donald Trump is bad for democracy. You guys are bad for democracy. You're literally making it to where Colorado voters only have one option. That's what goes on in China. CCP. You go in, they have elections too. They have elections, but the difference is we have options. We have a two-party system. We have a Republican and a Democrat we get to choose from. We even do primaries. We have a lot of people running in the Republican primary. And the difference here with the CCP run elections and North Korea, there's only one option. So people go into the actual voting booth and there's one option on the ballot and they've got to check off that option. Like that's not an election. Okay. That's a dictatorship, and you're doing elections as some sort of, for optics. That's what you're doing. So we are a dictatorship in America. We have a dictatorship. Quite literally, there is one option on the ballot for president in November of 2024, and that's Joseph R. Biden. So the Democrat parties, they are freaked out. They're afraid of this growing dominant lead that President Donald Trump has over Biden. They've lost faith in the Biden presidency, and now they're doing everything they can because they don't want to get rid of Biden. And I told you this multiple times. They don't want to get rid of Biden. I really don't think that they're going to get rid of Biden. I'd be shocked if he makes it. Quite literally, just because of health reasons. I'd be shocked if he makes it through 2024 through this campaign. But they love Joe Biden there because he's a puppet. He doesn't move. He doesn't rock any boats. You know who did rock the boat? JFK. He was a nationalist, populist president, and quite literally, I think he was the last president that we got to elect without anybody tipping the scales. Now, in the 2016 election, I think that they weren't prepared. They didn't think that Donald Trump would be as much of a threat as he was in that 2016 election. But anyway, they killed JFK because JFK wouldn't go into war. He wouldn't be provoked into war. They lied to him, the CIA, all of these agencies, intelligence agencies, they continued to lie to him and to try to provoke him into war with Russia. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that because we're not doing that. And they didn't like that. So they killed him, the CIA and Lyndon Baines Johnson. But yeah, that's when our democracy really just was destroyed, because that was the last time we got to elect a nationalist populist president. And look what they did to him. And look what they're doing to the last nationalist populist president that we had. It's President Donald Trump. I'm surprised they haven't killed him. But they're doing everything but killing him at this point, to the extent of knocking him off of the ballot. But like I said, they've lost faith in this Biden presidency, the narrative. They're losing control of the narrative because of things like Twitter and the rise of alternative media. And they're doing everything they can to stop American voters from throwing them out of office next November. And they're knocking Donald Trump off the ballot. So the Colorado Supreme Court. I keep mixing this up because the Illinois Supreme Court is just as corrupt. We've got a couple of people there that were bought and paid off by Governor J.B. Pritzker. They've got installments of $1 million each, and it's not me saying that. I mean, just look at the guilt. Mary Kay O'Brien, I questioned her this on her public campaign page on Facebook, and then she blocked me and deleted all of my comments, proving that Governor J.B. Pritzker installed $1 million into her campaign coffers. But anyway, the Colorado Supreme Court issued a completely flawed decision last night. Now, the Trump campaign said that they're going to appeal it to the U.S. Supreme Court, so that's a good thing. They say we have full confidence that the U.S. Supreme Court will quickly rule in our favor and finally put an end to these un-American lawsuits. So that's what this is. It's a lawsuit. It's a Washington, D.C. nonprofit who sued Donald Trump and tried to sue and get him off the ballot for so-called insurrection. But the lawsuit is flawed because Donald Trump was not charged with insurrection. There was a lower court who found in his favor that, hey, you shouldn't be knocked off of the ballot for this, for the 14th Amendment. Now, the 14th Amendment, it's in the U.S. Constitution. It was ratified after the Civil War, and really what it did, it tried to prevent Confederate leaders from being elected and holding office at a federal level. That's why that 14th Amendment is phrased the way it is. And that you can argue that this disqualifies somebody, the 14th Amendment, and even the lower court says that you can't use the 14th Amendment to toss him off the ballot here. He did, in fact, commit insurrection, but that doesn't mean you can toss him off the ballot. That's what the lower court here in Colorado said. The 14th Amendment, it's garbage. I mean, that part of the 14th Amendment sucks. That's unconstitutional. You can't deny people from holding office. But anyway, the suit was brought against Donald Trump on behalf of the Colorado citizens, and they demanded that Trump not be permitted to run for president in that state. Now, the lower court found in his favor. They allowed him to remain on the ballot, but in the ruling, the lower court judge said that Donald Trump did commit insurrection. The judge does not have the authority to do that. Okay, we have different branches of government for a reason. It's called balance of power. You have to be charged, then you go to court and you are charged criminally. If you have a criminal charge, then you go to court and you try to dispute those charges. You try to prove your innocence. Okay, this was not a criminal court. This was a lawsuit that was waged against Donald Trump by a left-wing, Soros-backed nonprofit organization out of Washington, D.C. Okay, that's what this was. It was a lawsuit. It was not criminal charges. They don't have the right to do that. The police have the right. Prosecutor has the right to charge you with something. That's the way it goes. You've got law enforcement. Okay. And the cops, they work with the prosecutor right here in McLean County. This is how it works. The sheriff works with the prosecutor very closely. And they gather the evidence and they say, hey, are we going to bring charges against this person? Yes, no. Then we're going to bring charges against that person. Then if those charges are brought against that person, then it goes to court. And then the judge decides whether he's guilty or innocent of these charges or of these allegations that the prosecution cooks up. He has not, Donald Trump, no prosecutor, not even Jack Smith, has charged him with insurrection. Now, there is a case. It's the conspiracy case. Okay, there is a case that Donald Trump was arraigned on. He's got conspiracy charges. This has got to do with overturning the 2020 election, and that there's this grand conspiracy that Donald Trump is a part of, where he tried to overturn the 2020 election results. That's it. There's no insurrection anywhere to be found. So the judge does not have the right to say, yes, you committed insurrection. That is a criminal, that's a crime. And you can't charge and be the judge. There's a division of power there. And so this case was garbage. And that lower court, Donald Trump, his campaign, they fought that. They appealed that decision in that lower court, which was a good thing. The attorneys are not to blame here. I don't know where people are getting that from. The attorneys are not to blame. If anybody's to blame, it's the judicial, the courts in Colorado. They are screwed up. If I was a judge and I got this and a nonprofit organization was accusing me of committing a crime in a lawsuit, I'd be like, what are you doing? You can't accuse people of crimes in a lawsuit and try to get them convicted. Like, no, the prosecutor and law enforcement have to be the ones. Now, you can accuse somebody, but you have to go to the police and file a report. That's how this goes. Okay, I can't just go to the court and skip this part where I go to the police, say I accuse you of arson, right? And I can't just, go to the court and skip that step where I file a police report and then they gather the evidence against you in the case of arson, and then they decide whether or not to prosecute. I mean, this is just basic. Have you ever watched Law and Order? Like, you know what I mean? I didn't go to law school. I'm not a criminal justice major. I mean, this is just basic understanding of the divisions of power here, where we have the executive branch, the judicial branch. But I'm going to be talking about the conspiracy charges and how we know that those aren't insurrection charges, and what that case is all about, because it's important. We're going to be back in a little bit. Go ahead, find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's next. Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for joining me here on The Buzz. If Vivek is withdrawing from the race, if President Trump is not reinstated, it's just BlackRock or the Biden regime have threatened him and his family. It's just BlackRock or the Biden regime have threatened him and his family. Oh, maybe. Yeah, Henry, that's a pretty good that's a pretty good theory you got cooking there. Yeah, maybe he is withdrawing from the race because he's been threatened. Who knows? The GOP is also to blame in not defending President Trump due to their wanting to Democrats electing the first woman president, Haley. Yeah, the GOP. Well, that's where I'm going to go next here, Henry, is, the GOP is kind of to blame here because they are not playing the same game. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, right? He controls the state of Florida. Why hasn't he challenged Biden being on the ballot in the state of Florida? He should be doing that. If we're going to play these games, then we need to play the game fairly and break the rules as well, because they're not following the rules. for tuning in. If you're tuning in, I would love to see you on the live stream. Be a part of the show on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's Cat Peterson 929. And before we took the break, we were talking about Donald Trump and the Colorado Supreme Court, how they did this un-American, they had this un-American, undemocratic decision. And they're going to appeal it, folks. Donald Trump campaign, they are going to appeal it. They're going to get it up to the U.S. Supreme Court. And I'm confident that the U.S. Supreme Court is going to laugh this out. Now, we're getting close to the primary, March 19th. Okay, these things take time. So the Trump campaign, what they've done, they said, hey, let's get a stay on this. Let's request a stay and try to get this decision held off until after the primary. That is going to be the best move for the Trump campaign, is to get this decision to just be put on pause, because they're trying to knock him off for March 19th. Now, before we took break, I was telling you guys how Donald Trump has not been charged with insurrection. He's not been convicted of insurrection. How can you toss somebody off of the ballot for insurrection if he hasn't even been charged for that crime? Okay, now there is an arraignment out there. He has been arraigned on these conspiracy charges. There's an indictment. It's Jack Smith and a little bit of Fulton County. Big fat Fannie Willis, she's got some conspiracy charges. That's with the RICO Act. And that he took part in this conspiracy to try to overturn the 2020 election results. Now, Jack Smith's indictment goes into detail about how, so this is the indictment, and this is what it says about January 6th. Okay, I'm just going to quote the indictment. After it became public on the afternoon of January 6th that the vice president would not fraudulently alter the election results, a very large, angry crowd, including many individuals whom the defendant had deceived into believing the vice president could and might change the election results, violently attacked the Capitol. We know that's not true, and halted the proceeding. There was a proceeding taking place, but it really actually sucked. And this is why I think that it was an inside job. And really, the Democrats didn't want that proceeding to take place because it's a process that a couple of presidents have gone through, where they question the election and they get the House of Representatives to consider a recount. Okay, that's kind of the proceedings that were going on that day. Okay, so it would have been in our favor, Republicans' favor, or Donald Trump supporters' favor, had that proceeding been able to proceed. Okay, so why would we interrupt a proceeding that would have gotten Donald Trump back on, or back into the presidency? We would not have caused an insurrection and interrupted proceedings that were beneficial to us. So as violence ensued, the defendant and the co-conspirators exploited the disruption by redoubling efforts to levy false claims of election fraud and convince members of Congress to further delay the certification based on those claims. So at this point, all Jack Smith says in this indictment is that Donald Trump falsely claimed that the election was stolen and that the election results were not, in fact, true. So Mike Pence actually admits that he had the legal ability to turn the 2020 election over to the House of Representatives. This is a clip that should go down in infamy. Like, this is the clip that destroys it all. Mike Pence is out there. Listen to him. Just listen to him. He admits that he had the authority to turn that election over to the House under the Constitution. That means that efforts to prepare for that could not have been an illegal conspiracy. Okay, if he has the constitutional ability to do that and to turn the election results over to the House of Representatives, there is a process for that. It's not unconstitutional to contest an election and to ask for consideration here when it comes to the election. Hey, this looks like it might have been stolen. We see some nefarious activity going on in these states. The election laws were changed here. We would like you to look at the results one more time. We would like the Congress to look at the results. Now, let's take a listen to Mike Pence admitting that he had the legal ability to turn the election over to the House of Representatives. Here we go. Let's see if I can do this. I think, yeah, for some odd reason, it's not playing. But yes, we're gonna just say what he said. So he said that he admitted that he could have turned the 2020 election over to the House of Representatives, but he was, quote, worried about chaos, and he was worried about public opinion. Okay, that doesn't mean that he didn't have the legal ability to do that, and this proves that efforts to prepare for that could not have been illegal conspiracy. Okay, because they have the right to do it under the Constitution. This is a process. So, like I said, in the indictment from special counsel Jack Smith, he alleges that Trump enlisted 6 co-conspirators to, quote, assist him in his criminal efforts to overturn the legitimate results of the 2020 presidential election. That's what that case is about. It's about overturning illegally the results of the 2020 election. Mike Pence admitted that he had the legal ability to do that under the Constitution. So there's no way that this can be an illegal conspiracy preparing to do that. Okay. The indictment alleges that Trump was determined to remain in power after the 2020 election. And for the 2 months following the election, the defendant spread lies that there had been outcome determinative fraud in the election and that he actually won. Yes, so Donald Trump has been saying that the election was stolen. Now, here's where it gets interesting, folks. In the 3rd paragraph of this indictment that Jack Smith has, like up to this point, there's no insurrection. Like they're not charging him with insurrection. That's not what this is about. It's about overturning the 2020 election. And they say he didn't have the right to do that and that he illegally conspired with 6 co-conspirators to overturn this election. And he didn't have the legal ability to do that, which is wrong. And Mike Pence came out and said, yes, I had the legal ability to turn that election over to the House of Representatives under the Constitution. So in the 3rd paragraph, he says, and I quote, in the indictment, President Trump had a right, like every American, to speak publicly about the election and even claim falsely that he won, but he is indicting him anyway. Jack Smith is indicting him anyway for speaking. This case is just Jack Smith criminalizing political speech. That's all this is. Dismiss this case. This isn't a case of insurrection either. So, like I said, knocking Donald Trump off of the ballot because he committed insurrection, he's never been charged with that. He's never been convicted of that. He hasn't even been convicted with Jack Smith and this illegally overturning the 2020 election. So you couldn't toss him off the ballot for those crimes. Okay. Do we have to take a break? But we're going to come back. We're going to chat a little bit about Eric Adams, the New York mayor. He said something that you're not going to believe. Quite literally the worst response I've ever heard from a politician. That's next. Good morning. Thank you so much for tuning in. I so do appreciate it. We're going to be back talking a little bit about Eric Adams, because Eric Adams, he actually said something that's kind of freaky. And it's the worst response given by a politician, I think, ever. Uh, in the comments section, go ahead and let me know, how would you describe New York City in just one word? Let me know in the comment section. And here's what I would say: illegals, anti Semitism, crime, and prostitution. New York City Mayor Eric Adams, he was asked this question. You're not going to believe his response. That's next. Folks, you better get it in today. Get it in today. Support our seniors. We're bringing the magic of Christmas to the seniors in long-term care facilities. So we've actually teamed up with the McLean County Nursing Home, and we want to bring the residents there some bright. We want to be able to put a bright smile on their face. So this Christmas season, we have made it our mission to brighten the days of our seniors by collecting gifts for the McLean County Nursing Home residents, and we need your help. You can drop off your donations right here at Great Plains Media. That's 108 Boykins Place, 108 Boykins Place during normal business hours. That's 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And your donations, we're going to collect them. You've got time still today, and do it a little earlier tomorrow. Today and tomorrow, you can drop those off. The donations will be collected today and tomorrow. You can make a monetary donation, and we'll just go buy gifts for you at cities929.com. And we just need a couple of things. We need like hairbrushes, combs, body wash. We need some flannel t-shirts for men and women, some non-slip slippers, maybe even some non-slip socks. We need crossword puzzles, things like that, to brighten the days of our seniors at the McLean County Nursing Home. We're going to be going there playing some music for them. So drop off your donations today, or go to cities929.com to make a monetary donation. Now, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, his response was terrible. It was the worst response I think that a politician could ever have given to this question. Now, he said, the reporter here, he asked, "Hey, Eric, can you describe New York City in 2023 in one word?" And Eric here, he says 2 words, so I don't think he really understood the assignment. But I don't blame him. New York public schools are crappy, and kids can't read at grade level, and they definitely can't do math at grade level anyway. So he said 2 words. The words were New York. And then he follows up with this bizarro explanation. I'm going to try to play it here for us. He's working. So I'll just tell you what he said. This is the place where every day you wake up and you can experience everything from a plane crashing into our trade center to a person celebrating a new business that's open. This is a very complicated city. And that's why we're the greatest city on the globe. Now, I'm not much for hyperbole here, but this is the worst response ever. Very tone deaf. He says, you can experience everything, like a plane crashing into our trade center to somebody opening up a bistro. What? So New York City is the greatest city on the globe, because you never know if you're going to witness the greatest terror attack on American soil, or Lady Gaga's dad, he just opened up a new bistro on the Upper West Side there of New York City. That's what the mayor of New York City just basically said. What? It's like almost asking, so Governor Josh Green of Hawaii, so he's the governor of Hawaii here, and asking him this question, and then him responding, "Oh, it's great here in Hawaii. You get to experience everything like a Japanese attacking our military base, Pearl Harbor, to Rock and Oprah, the Rock and Oprah hosting a pancake breakfast. You know, the Rock and Oprah, they live there in Hawaii." That's, and I could go on. I mean, in Washington, D.C., you can experience a staffer literally getting nailed in the butt in one room, and then in the other room, the American people are figuratively getting nailed in the butt in the next room. Okay, so that's Washington, D.C. You can have a Democrat staffer getting nailed in the butt quite literally in one room, and the American people getting nailed in the butt figuratively in the other room. And I mean, I could go on. If you ask Netanyahu to describe Israel in one word, I think I've made my point. But to get back to the original question, let me know in the YouTube comments, how would you describe New York City? I would say, in one word, I'd say it's a cluster. I'd say it's a disaster. I'd say prostitution. I'd say crime. I'd say anti-Semitism. I'd say illegals. If you asked me to describe New York in one word, these are the things that come to mind. Oh, Eric, that was a very bad, very, very bad response. Now, I do want to end on this because this is a big story. U.S. Steel, they actually agreed to be sold to Japan Nippon Steel. So Japan, this is a major steel company, and they bought U.S. Steel. So there were other people bidding for this, but when you look at the bid amounts, were they really bidding on it? Probably not. This was probably a done deal. Now, this Japan company, they outbid all the other people for a lot of money. I mean, their offer was $14.9 billion, which was the offer here was 2 times higher than the next highest bid. So 2 times higher. So like I said, not really bidding. And why are people upset about this? Why should you be upset about this? Steel is a matter of national security. You and I know that steel is everything here in America. We build with it. We do construction. We go to war with it. This is a national security issue, and we use it for everything. Our cars, and I mean the list goes on. Trump got that. He understood how important steel was. Now, for some perspective here, in World War II, the United States used to be the number one, or at least we made more than half of the world's steel. We produced more than half of the world's steel. We were probably pretty close to number one. I got to double check that. But now, flash forward to today, we're number 4. China, as you guessed it, I'm sure you could have guessed it, they're the number one when it comes to the world's production of steel. Now, Trump understood that this was a problem. When he was in office, he tried to change that. He put a 25% tariff on the Chinese and on Chinese steel to protect our industries here. Now, John Fetterman is actually out there, and he said that this is outrageous, and he actually promised to block this sale. He promised he was going to try and do everything he could to block the sale. John, you're not going to do anything. But I appreciate the sentiment here. John Fetterman, he vowed on Monday to work to block the $14.9 billion sale of U.S. Steel Corporation to this Chinese steel maker. And he described this as an outrageous move. He says this on X: I lived across the street from a steel plant, and he said it's absolutely outrageous that the U.S. Steel agreed to sell themselves to a foreign company. Steel is always about security, both our national security and our economic security. And I am committed to doing anything I can to use my platform and my position to block this foreign sale. So steel is a matter of national security. And I'm with Fetterman on this one. I'm not with him on a whole lot of things, but he swung right again. And we should have learned our lesson here, folks, when we outsourced nearly all of our antibiotic production to communist China. And, people might be saying, oh, we're upset about it because of the loss of jobs or whatever. And I'm going to take a quick break, but we're going to get to that because I kind of disagree, but I kind of agree. I've got more on this story. You're going to want to stick around. That's next in the buzz. Ooh, hey, big shout out to Alice. She actually stopped by our studios today, and you guys need to follow in her footsteps because we are really needing some donations for support our seniors this year. She stopped by and she dropped off her donations to our studios. That's 108 Boykins Place in Normal. Love Alice. She's the best listener. If you want that title, then you're going to have to come to our studios and drop off some donations. But our donations are going to be collected today and tomorrow. The McLean County Nursing Home, what we want to do is brighten the days of our seniors. You know, we started this back in the pandemic Panny D, and we saw how lonely they got when they didn't have people coming for the holidays. So we said, you know what, we're going to step up and we're going to drop off these donations as Christmas gifts. And it's been a success for the last couple of years. So stop by our studios, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Today we're here and tomorrow. So come on by for those donations. Now, before we took the break, I was telling you guys a little bit about U.S. Steel being bought out by this by this Japanese company. And a lot of people are probably going to be upset because of the potential loss of jobs, but that's kind of not the case here because in this case they actually might employ people here in this economy. The Japanese company, it's all terrible. I'm not going to sit here and justify that the Chinese or that the Japanese company should have bought the US company, but they say that they're going to employ people here. They also agreed to keep the headquarters in Pittsburgh and that the steel production won't move to Japan. I don't really believe them. Okay, because why do they care so much about U.S. production? Now, we just have to understand that the U.S. steel production it's abysmal. It's sad. In World War II, we accounted for more than half of the world's steel production. Fast forward to today, China, if you take all of the other countries, we're fourth. I think India and Japan come out ahead of us. Yes, India and Japan come out ahead. If you take everybody else in the world and you combine their steel production, it does not even come close to what China produces. So this is a big deal because steel is everything. Steel is our national security. Steel, it's our cars, our bridges, our roads, our infrastructure. And you know, I just hope that this Japan company stands by their word and they don't ship out the production or ship out these jobs to Japan, and they keep the headquarters here in Pittsburgh and they employ people here in this economy. I doubt it, but we'll see. You guys have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye. Love you. We're going to do it all again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Find me on YouTube. That's Kat Peterson 929. And you guys have a great rest of your day. We'll do it again tomorrow.